be honest, Minecraft Legends wasn't exactly a huge success. In my opinion, it's one of the weakest games in the Minecraft franchise. But most importantly, it brings small pieces of lore and story into the Minecraft universe. It answers a lot of questions, like where did the illagers come from, how did the cycle of the day and night begin, and many others. This video is the first part of the trilogy where we fully break down Minecraft's lore. The second part will be about Minecraft Dungeons, and the third will be about vanilla Minecraft. Because without looking at these two games first, it'll be much harder for us to understand the third one. So leave a like, and as we go through the video, share your own theories and ideas connected to this game. Let's start with the fact that the developers present all of the Minecraft Legends as a beautiful bedtime story, a tale that kind villagers tell their children before they go to sleep, almost as if they're hinting that only part of this entire story should actually be taken as a true. But for the sake of this video, let's imagine that everything shown in the game is canon and really happened. After all, even though the game is called Minecraft Legends in the plural, it really only tells us one legend. Our story begins with the world of the game being utopia. In simple terms, paradise. Everyone is friends, nobody fights, and even the monsters we all know don't cause any problems. You can clearly see this when a zombie villager gives a flower to a living villager, just like an iron golem does in vanilla Minecraft. By the way, iron golems don't appear in Legends, and that's exactly because there is no need for them. There is no danger. Everything in the overworld lives in complete harmony with each other. The Nether, on the other hand, can be called a dystopia. It's a completely dark and grim world, where there are, let's say, three factions. The first is the Horde of the Hunt, led by the Beast. They are the most primitive ones. They live like raiders, they pretty dumb, and they mostly inhabit the Nether Waste biome. The second is the Horde of the Spore, led by the Devourer. They are smarter and more developed people, and they mostly live in the Warp Forest. And the final faction is the Horde of the Bastion, elite defensive warriors and the most intelligent type of piglins, led by the Unbreakable. Alright, with that out of the way, we understand who we're dealing with. The most important of them all, you could even call him the ruler of the entire Nether, is the Great Hawk. We don't really know much about him, where he came from, or why he is the one ruling the Nether. But there's always that dark horse, the one acting from the shadows and whispering to the Great Hawk what he should do. That is the Seer. You can interact with her in the game, but she is the one giving all the orders. Or is it the other way around? Look at what she's holding in her hands. It's the very same orb of dominance that enslaved the mind of the archaeologer in Minecraft Dungeons. And as we know, the orb was destroyed in that game, which means that, at least for now, Minecraft Legends is the earliest game in the Minecraft universe timeline. Author Matt Forbeck wrote the novel The Rise of the Archaeologer, a canon prequel to Minecraft Dungeons. In the book, it says that thousands of years before Archie found the Orb of Dominance, there was a great war, and the Orb of Dominance was involved in that war too. We'll come back to this book later in the lore breakdown for Minecraft Dungeons. Matt Forbeck also wrote a sequel to Minecraft Legends, but officially that book is not canon, so we won't even take it into account. From this, we can understand that behind all this evil action stands the Seer, who was enslaved by the Orb of Dominance. So once again, the Orb of Dominance is causing trouble. It was the one that wanted to conquer the Overworld, because in the Nether, during what you could call the main meeting, the leaders of all three hordes, together with the Great Hawk, discussed their plan to invade the Overworld. They see this dimension as easy prey, and honestly, it basically is. So they send in the weakest and slightly dumbest faction, the Horde of the Hunt. All of this is seen, so to speak, by a certain being named Foresight. She, along with action and knowledge, is one of the hosts. In the official guidebook, they are described as the caretakers of the Overworld. Unfortunately, there is no exact information about where they came from or how they appeared. You could think of them as gods who cannot directly interfere with what is happening. I'll also add that actress Pamela Nomlet, who voiced Foresight, also narrated the entire story and cutscenes in Minecraft Dungeons, so we can assume that this may have been Foresight as well. So, this being can see many possible versions of the future, but she can't say for certain which of them will actually come true. She is the one who keeps showing us what is currently happening in the Nether or the Overworld, which, by the way, is very convenient. And when she realizes that something bad is coming, she almost opens a portal into the future, where we can see good old vanilla Minecraft, and a player mining ore in a cave. The host explained to the player that his creativity and the courage inspired them to ask him for the help. Then they tell him that their world isn't in danger and only the player can save them all. Of course, the hero agrees and jumps into the strange blue portal without hesitation. After that, the host explains the player's task in more detail and give him some useful items. Knowledge gives the player a loot, which he will use to command the blue and yellow allies. From a technical point of view, the developers admitted that allies were created as a mob to solve the problem of how players will build structures and gather resources in the game. But from a lore perspective, it's not completely clear. They were definitely created by the host to help the overworld. Most likely the host thought the allies would be able to deal with the piglins on their own, but they failed. The only way to communicate with these mobs is through music. Foresight gave the hero the flames of creation. This helped the player create new allies, and apparently similar flames are found inside all spawners in vanilla Minecraft. Action gave the player the banner of courage. With this item, the player can command all of their allies. The player's mount ended up in the other dimension completely by accident and became a victim of the hosts, who ordered it to serve the player. While the hosts were explaining what was going on, the piglins had already attacked the overworld and even captured a peaceful village. Likely, the player arrived in time and saved everyone. But after the victory, the player had to restore the Well of Fate. Yes, the Well of Fate is mentioned throughout this story again and again. It seems to have been the first structure in the overworld, and its water fits all living thing in this dimension. The waters flow to every village, and without this structure, the overworld would come to an end. While the hero was fighting enemies, the inhabitants of the overworld were constantly following close behind. Creepers, skeletons, and zombies. As I said earlier, they were completely peaceful creatures. They had never fought each other or even the villagers. But because of the piglins' actions and because they were inspired by the hero, they learned how to fight and defend their home. The hosts even talk about this. They themselves are surprised that these creatures somehow learn how to wage war. If you were paying close attention, you may have noticed that the skeletons in Legends are very different from vanilla skeletons, and the same goes for zombies. To put it mildly, they don't really look like players the way they do in vanilla game. Instead, they look more like direct copies of villagers. And yes, that's true. In this world, unfortunately or fortunately, there are no players. You could say we were the first ones to step onto this untouched land. That's why all the zombies and skeletons look like the only humanoid mobs around, the villagers. We'll come back to this topic in the lore breakdown of the vanilla game. So while the players was slowly making his way toward the main portal where the invasion had begun, the hosts weren't just sitting around doing nothing. Knowledge managed to create new allies who would help our hero in battles against the piglins. This once again supports the idea that hosts are not just hired beings, they are quite literally the creators of the entire Minecraft world. The hero continued his journey and kept pushing forward, but the Nether was not happy about this. The Horde of the Hunt was extremely weak, and the one the most unhappy about it was the Great Hawk. Not knowing what to do, he called for the Seer. You could say this was her first official appearance in the game. The Great Hawk explained to her that he had failed his task. The Seer reacted very calmly. She summoned some small piglins who brought in Beacon. Most likely, this was a truly rare object, even for them. With one simple movement of her hand, she took out the Orb of Dominance and turned an ordinary beacon into a corrupted beacon. At least, if we go by the Minecraft dungeons. Apparently, the Seer is very good at handling its power. She has learned to control it, while others, like the Great Hawk, clearly have not. Following the Seer's orders, the piglins placed the corrupted beacon on their base in the overworld, and after it was activated, it unleashed a powerful beam that managed to enslave the sun. Because of this, complete darkness fell over the world. Unfortunately, the game never really explains this moment, but we can make a theory that this world was originally ruled by light. In other words, there was no night, and only this action by the piglins, or more specifically by the Orb of Dominance, led to the day and night cycle appearing in the Minecraft world. This is indirectly confirmed by the hosts and by the mobs themselves. When the mobs see the night for the first time, they seem terrified, as if they have no idea what is happening. Of course, it could also just be shock from the fact that night suddenly fell so abruptly. When the player destroys the base and the beacon itself, daylight returns, but not as suddenly as night appeared. It almost looks like time is shifting. You can see the stars disappearing beyond the horizon as the sunrise begins. At that moment, the hosts say that this is a completely new world, even more than anyone could have imagined. Just to be clear, this is only my theory. You can share your own thoughts in the comments. I'm sure both I and others will be interested to read them. And as another piece of supporting evidence, I can add this. Before the corrupted beacon appeared, night never came in the game. But after it was destroyed, the cycle appeared, and at night the piglins become more violent. They left their bases and started attacking peaceful mobs. After the failure with the corrupted beacon, the Piglin army decided to launch a new attack. They created 3 new bases, each one based on one of the 3 factions. Each horde built 3 fortified outposts and stationed its troops there. The player's task was to destroy every single base, and that's exactly what the heroes set out to do. After the first horde of the Bastion base was destroyed, the smaller Piglins decided to report their failure to the Unbreakable. The news did not please their leader, but overall, nothing too terrible happened. But when the second base was destroyed, it caused real anger. The leader didn't go deal with it himself. Instead, he sent his right-hand warrior, the Portal Guard. He was supposed to finish off the hero once and for all. But of course, since the hero was stronger, he failed too. When the Unbreakable heard about this, he was furious. He couldn't believe that his army had been defeated by someone from the Overworld. So the leader of the Horde of the Bastion didn't wait any longer. He went to deal with the player with his own hands, paws, hooves? Yeah, I think hooves is probably the better option. Naturally, this monster failed too. The hero politely made it clear that he was not welcome in this dimension. Meanwhile, the piglins from the other hordes decided to strike at the hero's allies. The skeletons were the first to fall. One of them managed to escape and came to the Well of Fate to ask for help. As it turned out, the skeletons had been attacked. They were caught off guard and simply overwhelmed by sheer numbers. Actions like that are difficult to forgive, and after being freed, the skeletons become even more fierce and hostile toward the piglins. In the end, everything worked out once allies helped repair the village. Next to suffer at the hooves of the piglins were the cute creepers, who had been living peacefully and coexisting with the other mobs. They were too scared to stand up to the brutal piglins. Of course, everything eventually comes to an end, especially when the hero rushes in to help and saves the adorable creepers. The allies then help restore the creepers' village and the flames of creation. The Horde of the Spore didn't want to stop there, and the next ones they attacked were the zombies. Because they were frightened, the zombies didn't fight back, they simply accepted their fate, at least until the hero came to help them. Together with his allies, he destroyed the chains that were keeping the zombies locked up. The allies also restored the village and the flames of creation, asking for nothing in return. Besides these mobs, they are also witches. They don't live in swamps like the vanilla ones, they have their own village, where regular villagers live too. They were also attacked, and the player managed to fight off that attack too. After that, the witches began to respect the hero, and just like the other mobs, they joined him in defending the overworld. From this, we can take away another useful piece of information. Skeletons, zombies, and creepers need the flames of creation, while witches do not. So essentially, those mobs were artificially created by the hosts. What exactly was their purpose, and why were they created in the first place? That is something we still have to figure out. After actions like that from the Horde of the Spore, the hero had no choice but to destroy their bases. The first one fell very quickly, but surprisingly, this news didn't interest the Devourer at all. He was calmly sitting in his pool of food, eating warped mushrooms, and he didn't even hesitate to eat a small piglin. Honestly, it's a horrifying sight. But that's not really surprising. Out of all 3 hordes, this one is most insane. Its main goal is to spread chaos, so the hero destroyed their second base. This time, the news from the overworld did not please their leader. He got angry and summoned his main soldier, the Sporeback. This is disgusting, but I'll explain it anyway. Explosive mushrooms grow out of his back, and he can use them for different purposes. The Devourer even ate one of them. I'm actually going to be sick. Nevertheless, our hero dealt with the third base as well. After that news reached the Nether, everything turned into an absolute nightmare. The Devourer becomes so furious that he jumped out of his pool of food, shouted that he would deal with the hero himself, and then, for some unknown reason, simply puked some kind of turquoise acid all over his own servants. Then he rushed toward the portal, but because of his size, he couldn't fit through it properly, and the spores were ripped off his back. God, these are the most disgusting creature in this game. And this is confirmed once again when he enters the overworld, where he starts vomiting some other kind of acid. And after the hero destroys him, he does it again. Then the remaining spores on his back burst. Disgusting. thing. Meanwhile, while the hero was fighting the piglins, the villagers weren't just sitting around doing nothing, they were heading somewhere. What's funny is that they wandered extremely far from home, which was very unlike them. Some of them, by the way, even started changing their skin color. From this, we can understand that their souls were becoming darker and more hostile. Maybe they were trying to find a new way to help, and without even noticing it, became victims of the darkness. After all, some of them still got scared and went back home. The others kept exploring the world and even managed to find weapons. And of course, that doesn't really sound like the most peaceful mobs in Minecraft, but this was their way of trying to help the entire overworld. When the villagers came to the hosts and asked them to help them fight, the hosts tried to talk them out of it, but this was the villagers' fate. Knowledge in action took the weapons they had brought and went off to create something unique. Meanwhile, Foresight used her power to change the villagers' appearance. Their skin became grey and they received new clothing. The new weapon of these warriors was an axe. Yes, from that moment on, after taking weapons into their hands, they call themselves the warriors of the overworld. Their strength and their desire to protect their land awakened the seed of hostility inside them. But even then, they couldn't handle everything on their own, because the basis of the strangest piglin still remained, the Horde of the Hunt. When the first base was destroyed and Piglin Messenger came to tell the beast about it, he didn't even pay any attention. At the moment, he was busy hunting a poor hoglin. That's how little he cared about the situation. After the second base was destroyed, the piglin didn't run to his leader. Instead, he ran to the seer and told her everything, because the beast still wasn't paying attention and was still busy hunting. The Orb of Dominance brought the leader of the horde back to his senses a little, and he sent his loyal companions to help, the Pygmadillos. But luckily, they turned out to be easy targets, and the third base couldn't hold out either. During the fall of this base, the seer used the power of the Orb of Dominance, forcing the beast to go fight in the overworld. So right before the portal was destroyed, he managed to run through it and head off on his own. More specifically, his target was a small village. But who could have guessed that? Just like the others, he would also be defeated. Of course, this outcome could not have pleased the Seer or the Great Hog. They could not afford to lose, so the Great Hog turned to the Orb of Dominance for help. It gave his weapon a special destructive power. It was so powerful that it absorbed the power of the portal itself. Now, the Great Hog could create different portals directly from his weapon, summoning his followers through them. His main target was the Well of Fate, because it was the source of power for the entire overworld. That means only one thing: the final round had begun. All the allies we had saved and even the warriors came to help. They joined forces to protect their home and to protect each other. And of course, they succeeded. They managed to defeat the Great Hog. He fell and his weapon could not overcome the Well of Fate. It exploded, creating a massive blast that opened a portal vortex into the Nether. And the power of the weapon dragged all the remaining piglins back home. This was a true victory. A victory of good, love, unite, and a shared goal. The hero showed that by coming together, you can achieve anything, even stand against evil. All the inhabitants of the overworld could sleep peacefully and enjoy life again. The villagers celebrated the victory, the allies cleaned up the spread of the netherrack, but the warriors, they, let's say, became angry at the peaceful villagers for not choosing the path of defending their dimension. Was that right decision? Maybe. Because of this, the warriors became even more hostile and left the villages, forming their own new community, the Illagers. The host did not send the hero back home, which is strange of course, but he stayed in this world to continue protecting it from any evil. The hosts simply returned to their own world, so they could keep watching over everything. What's really interesting is that their world is literally made of different structures built from prismarine blocks, and that of course could explain those very ocean monuments. I'll also add that the main currency in the game is prismarine shards, and the Well of Fate itself is made of prismarine too, but we'll talk about that in the lore breakdown of vanilla Minecraft. I'll also answer another popular question: why don't piglins zombify in the overworld? It's because of the spores. When they are in the overworld, they breathe in nether wart, the same kind that grows in nether fortress, and it gives them strength. And if you think that sounds silly, just remember that in vanilla Minecraft we can't brew potions without nether wart either. So what happened to to the Nether? It's hard to say. All the main bosses were destroyed, and the small piglins aren't really capable of much. If we go by the book, they behave like children, so it will be hard to rise new bosses from them. The story of Minecraft Legends is painfully simple. There are no unexpected twists, nothing too new, but for a game like this, it's perfectly acceptable. I'm glad the developers or the writers managed to help patch some holes in lore of the vanilla Minecraft. But exactly how they did that, we'll talk about in the full lore and story breakdown of vanilla Minecraft. Next up is Minecraft Dungeons, and if you really make an effort, the second part won't take too long to come out. I had a lot of fun breaking down the lore of this game, and will definitely come back to it again. Believe me, all three games are deeply connected. And while you're waiting for the next video, check out these ones, they're just as interesting. Subscribe to this channel, leave a like and hit the bell. We'll heal from each other again, because we continue discovering Minecraft in a whole new way.